Hi there, Lindsay here, the Frugal Crafter. Today we're going to do the December page in our 2025 Light Wish watercolor calendar. I've got my space all set up. I'm going to use up some of this washi tape that arrived damaged from an advent calendar, so I figured, well, you might as well use it up, and it's festive, so why not? I am going to mask off the border of my painting here because I may want to do some spattering, and I want to make sure that I'll have that protected. So I'm going to cover up, I'm going to make a frame basically with the tape, and then I'm going to cover up the all the dates at the bottom of the calendar. And sometimes it's fun to use up that washi tape. I know if you're anything like me, maybe you went big on the washi tape craze many years ago, especially if you were a scrapbooker or paper crafter, card maker, and we have drawers of this stuff. And this does not last because it'll eventually get like really stuck to itself on the roll and it'll be hard to use. So I highly recommend use it or lose it. I'm going in and I'm sketching from a reference on the Color Cube color card. And this is a product by Sarah Renee Clark. It came out a few years ago with the first 2 volumes, and she just recently relaunched it, but adding, she took away some of the palettes and she added new palettes, and now there's 4 volumes of it. If you already have 1 and 2 and you bought 3 and 4, you would have some duplicates, but not that many. She has removed 100 cards from the original volumes 1 and 2. She has spread them around a little bit, but they're mostly still in volumes 1 and 2, the old cards. So that's why I said if you just want to get some newer ones, go with the like 3 and 4 for fewer duplicates. But anyway, I do think this particular reference is in the older style one too, and it's also on Unsplash, and I'll try to find that for you and link it in the video description. But anyway, I think it's kind of fun because there's a fun like color palette there, and the paints I'm going to use have those colors in it, and it's kind of like a stylized Chinese traditional palette. I sketched this with a mechanical pencil. It's I think a Pentel Graph Gear. I picked it up at Fiddlehead's art shop. I just really thought they were pretty, and sometimes if you buy a fancy mechanical pencil, you won't lose it, like, you know, if you have a cheapo Bic one. Yeah, I felt like a treat one day and I just bought that. Actually, I bought one of each size and each a different color. I'm going to start by wetting the background here, and that's going to allow me to have like a soft blended background. And I mixed together like the Prussian blue color and the kind of light red color that was in the set, and got this really soft gray. The colors in the set really aren't great for mixing. It's the Yatsutomo traditional Chinese watercolor set, but it had really good reviews, and it was a steal. I think it was around $11. I think regular price is only like $13 or $14 for this set of 12 colors. So I thought I'd give it a try. I think they're really more designed for rice paper, so I will try that too and review these for you, but I wanted to see how they would work on a regular watercolor paper. And the paper in this calendar is a 100% cotton. It's a really nice paper. I think it's probably paper by Potentate, but I'm not 100% sure. Lightwish has a lot of really nice sketchbooks and swatch pads and different kits that contain the same 100% cotton paper, and it's really nice. It's nice that there is an affordable watercolor paper that's 100% cotton now. I know we all used to use the B watercolor paper, but that's been really hard to find in the 100% cotton packs these days. Hopefully they'll come back, but I know it's kind of hit or miss when you go and look for that. And I did add a little bit of red to the gray mix here to make it a little bit cooler, not cooler, a little bit purplier. And I added that to the shadow on the I want to say mushrooms. No, they're marshmallows inside the mug. And I have to say, I just have to pat myself on the back for like doing just a really light sketch with like, I kind of came in cold. I hadn't been working on anything else before this. I'm just really impressed with how my sketch turned out pretty well on the first go. You know, without any warm-ups that day, starting in with the ellipse, which is always like kind of the bane of my existence. I'm happy with how that looks. Symmetrical things can be very challenging. I'm using 2 of the reds that are in that watercolor set to create this kind of neutral red, because it kind of comes with like a bright orangey Chinese red, and then almost more of like a cool crimson color. And this paint I think is best used fresh from the tube, but I had squirted some out in another ceramic palette and let it dry, and it did kind of want to flake up, but I was able to re-wet it, and you don't have to waste it if you have extra paint left over. But I would highly suggest, if you want to try these paints out, that you use it fresh from the tube for the best results. And I think that's probably how it's designed to be used, but I am not somebody that does traditional Chinese painting, although I do love the look of the Chinese brush painting. But I do want to try something similar to that on some rice paper. I just want to make sure I do it in a way that I'm not appropriating or being or offending the Chinese culture, because it is such a, people they spend their lives mastering these techniques, and I don't want to be like, la di da, look at me, But anyways, using these on the traditional kind of more Western papers, even though this paper is made in China more than likely, but it's kind of more like a more sized watercolor paper. It worked out really well. I did a controlled wash for the gloves, and then I went in while it was still wet with thicker paint, so it would be kind of fuzzy and give me that impression of the soft, fluffy gloves. Now I am using that same red, and I'm just using a steady hand. This is the number 10 round from Mui. It's their travel brushes that have the synthetic squirrel hair, and it's dual ended. And this is the largest round brush. It's a number 10 round, and I still be able to get these really fine lines. And because it's such a big brush, it holds a lot of paint, so I don't have to stop and reload too often. And that's another one of those products that I highly recommend. I think it's around $30. You get 3 travel brushes, but they're dual ended, so you get 6 tips. And the ones with the wooden handles, I do have the cap on the other end, but these ones with the wooden handles, you can work with both caps off and kind of flip the brush around, and it's still comfortable to use. They have ones that have a silver barrel that don't have any wood in them, that are shorter, so if you're really tight on space, it's good. But I find you need to have that cap on the end on those. I don't like those as much as these here that have the little wooden break in there. But they have both options, because people like different things. The hairs though are the same, so it just depends on what you like as far as that. And I think they have a set now that has some natural hair brushes too. It might be like a combination. So depending on your preference. And here, kind of did a controlled wash again, where, you just start with a bead of color, and you just kind of work it down. And when you get to the bottom, you wipe your brush off on a paper towel, and you sop up the leftover paint so that you don't have backruns. So if I didn't go in and sop up that paint at the bottom, I would have had these blossomy, ruffly edges there, which is not what I want. Now, you can also see the drying shift. So with these paints, they have a big drying shift. So I think if you're using them on rice paper, an unsized paper, you wouldn't necessarily notice that. I think it would be what you see is what you get a little bit more. But with a traditional sized, heavily sized Western paper, Western feeling paper, using Western techniques, it's going to look really vibrant while it's wet. But then when it dries quite a bit duller. So keep that in mind if you're considering purchasing these paints. If you don't like that, you might want to skip these. I think they're a charming set, and the colors they chose are very traditional and very pretty. They look very nice together. But like I was trying to mix kind of a minty wintergreen, like a darker kind of like Viridian kind of color here, and I really couldn't get it. Although it is really a great match for the darker green that's on the cube card there. So it worked for that. It worked for this color scheme really well. But if I wanted to get something really vibrant, it wouldn't have worked. There's just either too much filler or too many opacifiers, or maybe the colors are already too mixed down to begin with. Another good option, if you're like, oh, Lindsay, I love the look of this. There's something about that, the charm of it. I love it. If you have the Kuretake Gansai Tambi paints, those are going to give you a very similar look. So even though those are Japanese paint, not a Chinese paint, they still have that same quality, and they're also dried down. So if you don't want to deal with tubes of paint, I would recommend that as a good alternative for you to paint with. So, always check your stash before you buy something new. I love to review products, and I love to try new things, and the curiosity gets me all the time, especially when I see something that has really good reviews, that's really affordable. It really piques my curiosity, and I have a hard time resisting. But I'm also doing this for my job. So if you've got something in your stash, give it a try. You may even find that maybe you have a student grade set of paints that you didn't like. Because of these qualities, they may work really well for this type of project. So keep that in mind. Now I did change up the color here on the handle. It was just so much white with the background, the snow. I wanted to have a little more contrast, and I really loved that mint color that was both on the card and almost an identical match for what I had in this Yatusomo palette. And so I decided I would go with kind of like minty tones on the handle. Plus, I just love red and mint together, like crimson and mint. It's one of my favorite combinations, that kind of aqua and crimson. I love it for Christmas. I love it for Valentine's Day. And it's just, I think, such a pretty combination. And I keep returning back to those mixed grays to add shadow to like the edges of the candy cane. And that's a tip I would share with you. If you have something that's cylindrical, if you add shadows to the edges, it'll make it appear more round. And then you can always add more shadow on top of that to the area that would technically be in the shadow, like away from your major light source. So keep that in mind as you're adding shadow. It's not always just going to be shadow on the shadow side. You'll also have shadow on other sides as well. Now this was a green and white striped scarf, but again, I felt like it just had too much white, and I love that mint color from the card and from my palette, so I thought I'm going to go ahead and add in that mint, kind of watered down over the white, just to give it a little bit more nuance, give it a little bit more mid-tone, because it's like I had the dark tones, like the dark stripes and the dark gloves and the dark cup, and then I had the really light tones, the marshmallows, the snow, the white on the candy cane, but there wasn't a lot of mid value. This is really a high contrast piece, and I didn't really like the look of it so much. I wanted something to kind of bridge the gap a little bit and give us a little bit more of a cozy feel, and by putting those mid-tones in there, I feel like it made the whole piece feel a little bit more cohesive and cozier. And when you're looking at wintry, Christmassy things, don't we want to feel cozy? We don't want to feel cold. We want to feel like snuggled up and cozy. So by adding those mid-tones in, it gave us the coziness. I tend to do my darks first anyway to establish them, so I'm a little more brave when I'm painting. And then I will go in with my bright lights a lot of times and then kind of fill in the range from there. Now I just wanted a little bit of definition because I felt that the finish of these paints were a little flat on this paper because they're not really designed for watercolor paper. They're designed for rice paper. So I'm going in with my Ohuhu liquid fine liners. These are, if you want black fine liners, these are my recommendation for black fine liners because they have a lot of ink in them. So they're not going to run down. I've been using these for about a year and a half. I use them almost every day, and they still have loads of ink in them. They cost, if you're buying them on Amazon, they're going to cost around, I think $12 to $15 for a set of, I think it's either 9 or 12. And if you're buying them at Michael's, they do sell them at Michael's. I think they're around $15, but you might be able to use a coupon or get them on sale or whatnot. But they do stock them in store at Michael's. So, and they also stock these paints in store at Michael's. I was just there yesterday shopping with some girlfriends. So if it is something that you want to pick up in person, you can do that. I know a lot of people do not shop online. They don't trust buying online, or they just don't want to have to meet shipping minimums or whatever. And I like that you can find those products in store. The calendar is only online, but you could always do this painting on whatever watercolor paper you had, and follow along for the fun of it. There's no requirement to do these tutorials that you have to have the calendar. It's just kind of a fun little novelty to have it, I have to say I haven't used the calendar as a calendar. It's just been like kind of sitting on my shelf. So I don't know what I'm going to do with all these paintings now that the year is done, but it was a fun project. I enjoyed it anyway. I probably should just find a space in my home where I can put the page every month, so I do enjoy it and I do look at it. But yeah, I'm doing a little smoother of a line on the harder objects, and I'm kind of doing a broken fuzzy line on the soft objects to get, to help sell the texture there. I didn't have a very steady hand when I was painting the back ridge of that mug, which really bummed me out because I had a bump there, but I can kind of smooth that a bit with my pens. Just a little hint there if you run into that same issue. And now I'm using my favorite white gel pens. These are the Boo Tiger. They come in a pack of 9, and you get 3.6, 3.8, and 3 1mm pens. I think this is the 1mm one here. And then I go in with a smaller one to add some smaller dots later on. But these are great. They're very opaque. They haven't clogged on me. There's a ton of ink in the barrel. The barrel is completely full. It doesn't have like a little cartridge like the Uniball Signos, which were my favorite white gel pen for the longest time. But these have them beat, hands down. And I'm glad to see that there are several kind of brands on Amazon selling this exact same pen. Here we go. We're going to clean that back edge up that was bugging me. So hopefully we'll be able to find these in the, for the foreseeable future. See how opaque that is? I'm using that to add the polka dots on the mug. And yeah, I love it because it's so opaque. You can clean up mistakes, but it also, you can add details. They're just really, really great pens. And for, I think it's around $8 or $9 for 9 pens, like $1 a piece. A Uniball is what, like $3 if you go into the store and you buy one, and they clog. They clog less than other brands, but still. So that's my pick for the white gel pen. And if you get the pack, then, you'll be set for a while. I keep a set in my travel bag and a set on my desk for use all the time. And then I've got a backup set in my drawer because that's how many came in there. But yeah, I was very pleased to find these pens. And dotting in some more snow. And then so the snow here, I did the dots with the biggest pen. I'm like, oh, they look a little garish. So then I went in with a smaller pen. And then finally I'll do some spatter. You'll see that coming up in a few minutes. But just kind of give you the process if you're thinking like, that's some chunky snow, lady. We do get that chunky snow sometimes. It's a little kind of warm and you're getting the snow and it's right around freezing and you get those big clumps of snow coming down. Sometimes you get snow like that and it looks like that. And then when it's colder, you get the more crystally, drier, wispy little snows. Yeah. And I like how I can kind of add a little glisten to the marshmallows. Yeah. I keep second guessing myself thinking, am I saying mushrooms? That would be cute though. A little cup with mushrooms growing out of it. That would actually be also cute. I tried that mushroom coffee. Have you heard about that? The mushroom coffee is supposed to not make you jittery and be all super healthy. But it's instant coffee with like mushroom powder in it or something. So yeah, I don't know. I'm not totally sold on that. Let me tell you. If I was out of coffee, would I drink it? Absolutely. But otherwise, I think it's more desperation coffee. Only if you have it, right? So now I'm using some Prismacolor pencils because, like I said, I felt like the finish on these paints on traditional watercolor paper was dull. I always have my Prismacolors in jars next to my desk. And the reason for that is they're wax based and they're very opaque and they go over, like I can use them on my oil pastels to refine edges. I can use them over my watercolors. They're just a very all around good pencil. There's other all around good pencils too that will rival them. Absolutely. Derwent ChromaFlow is very similar. They may be cheaper for you depending on where you live. Also Derwent's Colorsoft they're a higher quality pencil and will give you a very similar result. They're almost as soft. But the reason why the Prismacolors stay out, the main reason, is that the color on the barrel of the pencil, the color goes all the way down. So when I'm quickly looking for the pencil I need, I can grab it in a flash. But if it's the like a Derwent pencil, they only have the colors on the ends. So I kind of have the tins laid down in front of me instead of just standing in a jar off to the side. It takes me longer. So, I'm going to go frictionless. I'm going to go for whatever is easiest to grab. And that's why I tend to use those a little bit more often. So it just goes into the use what you have, use what is handy, and make your things handy if you want to use them, right? If you want to use your products, make sure they're nearby, accessible, and handy. I really leaned into the fuzziness of the gloves, and I just kind of scumbled over with this nice bright kind of raspberry red color and let the texture of the paper, which is cold press. People ask me, which calendar do I get, the hot press or the cold press? Get whatever you like, but I prefer the cold press. I like a little texture, but that's just me. If you prefer hot press, get hot press. It doesn't matter. Do what you like. But I like it on this sort of thing where I can pick up that texture. Now, if you want to color something smoothly and you love to use color pencils a lot over your watercolors, but you want a smooth effect, you would want the hot press because the cold press would probably drive you bananas because you'd have to work to fill in the hills and valleys of the paper. But yeah, anyway, if you want to use your supplies, make them accessible, make them handy, put them in some sort of storage where it's not going to be a pain in the butt to get to them. Quality wise, I have to say Derwent makes a higher quality pencil all around, their quality is higher. I wish that their barrels were colored all the way down and not just a flash on the end, because for me, wanting to grab something quick, my eyesight not being the best in the world, I'm gonna go with what's easiest. Those are just much easier for me to use. But anyway, just a little brief aside there. I haven't met that many colored pencils that I don't like. I haven't met that many art supplies that I don't like. So, take it with a grain of salt, right? Always take it with a grain of salt. Anytime anybody is touting a product, take it with a grain of salt. Now I want to add some metallic, so I have this palette always handy on my desk. It's the Paul Rubens metallic set of 24. And here is another thing. I have the set of 48. I use a set of 24 80% of the time. It's got a really great variety of colors. I feel like the additional colors in the 48 set are not unique enough to justify it. So if you're on the fence, you're thinking about buying a metallic set, I would say go for the 24 over the 48. You'll save half the price, and I think you'll get stuff you'll use. And I've been using this for years, and yeah, you can see that I have holes in some of the colors, but I'm certainly haven't used them up. And this is the set that I use the most. Another metallic set that I really like, and I really like it because it comes in larger pans. It's a 14 color set. It's about the same price as the 24 color set of Paul Rubens. It's the Altenew set of metallic watercolors. And I like it because it's got such large pans. I can get a whole toothbrush head in there to scrub it in to get color, and they're super opaque. Those are very nice as well. Quality wise, I'd say they're probably about the same. I feel like I can get a more opaque coverage from the Altenew one just because I can fit that whole toothbrush in there. But both of those are really great options. You have more color options in the Paul Rubens one, but the Altenew one is definitely more of your jewel tones, but both great products. And, if you don't use metallics that often, you probably don't need both of them. Just go with whatever suits your needs, right? Now I'm using a really pale gray, but look how much it stands out. It's just a really pale. I think it's a warm gray. I was just trying to read my, I don't remember which one I grabbed. I just wanted something really pale to add some steam coming out of the hot chocolate to break up the snowy background a little bit because I thought it was just kind of a little too plain. And after I take the tape off, I am going to add a little bit more to that. But I do like that little wispiness, and I like how it gets broken up by the texture of the paper. This was honestly a really easy painting to do, and I hope you give it a try because it was a fun one. If you don't feel comfortable drawing, you can always trace the reference photo. And one, like we're going to see, the other thing, just adding that steam up beyond the frame, I think is a really nice touch and helps bring a little more depth and whimsy to the painting. And it was just really fun. I was kind of feeling a little, I had a project go sideways and I didn't know what I was going to do the rest of the day, but I wanted to do something. And this project wasn't too precious. It was just fun, and it came together quite easily. And I hope you've enjoyed watching it, and I hope you give it a try because it was a lot of fun to create. And I like I like the contrast also. Oh, I wanted to lighten those that steaminess, so I just went in with my kneaded eraser and just kind of pressed on the edges to kind of soften the steam wisps on the side. And I really like how they came out. And having the metallic and the colored pencil, having that contrasted against the kind of more dull flat finish of the Chinese watercolors. There you can see them in the palette. You kind of see how they kind of wanted to crumble a little bit, but I was able to reactivate and use them. That palette is from Amazon, by the way. I'll link that up too, as well as the other ceramic palette that I used. But I'm like, I want to add some hot chocolate in there, so I just used that brown from that set and added it in around the marshmallows a little bit. And I think that was a nice color to bridge it together too, because I did use that brown to make the gray in the background. So I think it worked out pretty well. I was thinking, it was maybe a little too dark, so I did blot it and add a little bit more back in, but I think probably also because the paint was wet, it was looking a lot more saturated because this paint does have a big shift when it dries due to the nature of it being a traditional Chinese style watercolor. But yeah, just fun. It was fun. It was fun. These paints were very easy to use. Not great for mixing, but if you're cool with that, it's a fun, cheap little set that you might like, or you might have something similar to it in your stash already to try. I'm not sure, but I really enjoyed it. I'm glad I did the inking afterwards, because I think if I added that ink at the beginning, it definitely would have gotten covered by those paints, since they do have a little bit of a haziness to it. I'm going in here adding just little extra details of sparkle and shimmer, any place I feel like I want to refine things. Sometimes it's good to take the tape off if you have a contrasting color tape and see the composition as a whole, and then you can decide, do I need a little bit more? What needs effect? I can add some white steam on there too. That would look pretty. And yeah, you can just kind of add those little final finishing touches. And This was fun. This was just a fun little project to get me in the Christmas spirit, get me in the holiday spirit, and I'll definitely have to put that on the fridge or something because I'm proud of it. Put your work on the fridge. Let's normalize middle-aged women putting their artwork on the refrigerator if they're proud of it. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments below. I'll link everything up in the video description. And let me know if you are excited to do this calendar project again next year. Your feedback really helps me plan the different projects that I want to bring to you on my YouTube channel. And I hope you are enjoying it. Thanks for watching, and as always, happy crafting.